Podcast Network Asia. FirstMetroSec is providing this podcast as a general market commentary. Reference to any specific security, product, or entity do not constitute as an offer or a solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any financial instruments or to participate in any particular trading strategy. The statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed by the hosts are subject to change without notice, and FirstMetroSec is under no obligation to update, amend, change, or correct any of the statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed. The statements, comments, views, and opinions expressed by the guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of FirstMetroSec. FirstMetroSec disclaims any liability arising from reliance on or reference to any information obtained in this podcast.
You are listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast, where we feature timely and relevant discussions on the Philippine stock market and the economy in the hope of providing you investing and trading guidance. Here's your host.
How's it going, investors? Hi, I'm Anjz, an equity research associate from First Metro Securities, where I cover the consumer sector. In this episode of Market Bites, let me share with you our latest company update on Century Pacific Food Inc., or CNPF, titled An All-Weather Business Model. CNPF's 1H24 earnings grew 13.6% year-on-year to 3.6 billion pesos on sales growth of 13% year-on-year. Despite a soft consumer environment, brand business, which is greater than 78% of the total, delivered 7% year-on-year growth, underpinned by the staple nature of the company's products. Meanwhile, OEM revenues grew 42% year-on-year on favorable base and FX translation impact. Gains at the gross margin level at 210 bips to 26.1% were channeled toward reinvestments in brand building, promotions, and innovations, leading to a more moderate 10.3% year-on-year growth in EBIT during the period. On some key takeaways, first, management is cautiously optimistic. Regional wage increases and lower rice tariffs likely supporting demand for branded segment, albeit logistical headwinds could temper OEM recovery. Second, gross margin improvements provide flexibility to reinvest in growth initiatives. And third, bottom line is expected to grow in lockstep with revenues at low double-digit growth in line with our expectations. For some critical data points to watch, first, gross margins are expected to remain at approximately 26% level for 2H24. Second, inventory cover was at 5 to 6 months for tuna and until end 2024 for milk. And third, raw materials prices, specifically for tuna and milk, is still lower year-on-year, while sardines and coconut prices are elevated as an offshoot of El Niño. We are maintaining our buy recommendation on CNPF with target price at 37.50 pesos. This is pegged to 19.3 times FY25F EPS, just above positive 1 standard deviation of the historical mean valuation. Following the stock's inclusion in the PSEI, we expect valuation re-rating to be sustained, especially given the counter's visible earnings growth drivers. We continue to like CNPF's long-term investment proposition on account of the following. First, CNPF's core product portfolio is defensive and diversified, well-positioned to weather macroeconomic headwinds. Second, the company is a leader in brand building and product innovation. Management boasts of a long history of successful brand and product launches, which provide exposure to fast-growing segments, such as milk, meat alternatives, and pet food. Third, Century Pacific is a champion of ESG initiatives, with its core pillars of protein delivery, planet preservation, and people development. And fourth, strong cash flow generation and balance sheet is a plus, which is paramount under the current interest rate environment. Key risks to our call are demand destruction owing to macroeconomic headwinds, higher input costs and peso depreciation. Major raw materials are imported and denominated in foreign currencies, largely in US dollars. Rising competition in value for money space, putting pressure on selling prices. And supply chain disruptions. Again, that's a buy call for CNPF at 37.50 pesos target price. And that's it for this episode of Market Bites. Hope this has been helpful.
Thanks for listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast. Don't forget to follow us to get first dibs on our new episodes. For more up-to-date market news and info, exclusive content, and the opportunity to connect with your fellow Filipino investors and traders, join facebook.com/groups/FirstMetroSec and be part of the First MetroSec family.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.